Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of County Commissioners.
Transgender Child Awareness Month Proclamation.
Can I get a motion?
Second.
Commissioner Kafori moves. Commissioner Shiprack seconds approval of R1. Commissioner Kafori.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm very proud to submit this proclamation on behalf of TransActive Education and Advocacy. TransActive is one of the only organizations in the country, and actually in the world, that serves the needs of children and youth whose gender turns out to be different than the one they were assigned at birth. First, I want to thank you for your work to serve the needs of gender nonconforming children who are more frequently targeted and stigmatized at school and throughout our community. I hope that this is not the only time that we hear from TransActive and your partner organizations, and I look forward to continuing our dialogue, learning more about the children and youth that you work with and how we can best help serve their needs and make our community the welcoming place that we want it to be. I understand that words do matter, and I'm sure that I speak for many in this room and in our community when I say that I want to learn more about the correct words, the right words that we can use when speaking publicly and speaking to children who are dealing with these issues. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. I first want to thank all of the commissioners, and in particular Commissioner Kafuri, for sponsoring the Transgender Child Awareness Month proclamation. I also want to thank Commissioner Kafuri's staff, and in particular Aaron Ridings, for his assistance in making this truly historic step forward a reality. This is the first time a month-long proclamation such as this has been declared anywhere in the United States, and to the best of my knowledge, anywhere in the world. While the stories of transgender adults have been written about, talked about on television, and filmed for theaters, the lives and unique challenges transgender children and youth face have remained in the shadows. In fact, there is some indication that some in our society intended and still intend for these children to live lives in which they are marginalized, stigmatized, dismissed, and or arbitrarily diagnosed with a mental disorder, or most commonly assumed to be merely expressing symptoms of future gayness. TransActive Education and Advocacy was founded in 2007 with a few simple goals in mind: to educate the world, beginning right here in Multnomah County, about the authenticity of transgender children's identity; to expose the destructive impact of bullying and abuse that is directed at all children and youth who, while not transgender themselves, may not conform to gender stereotypes; and to shift the conversation away from obsessing over kids' present or future sexual orientations. Instead, examine the effect intolerance of gender nonconformity is having on all of our children years prior to their developing a sense of who they are attracted to. So what is the transgender child experience like? How are they different from non-transgender, or as we say, cisgender children? The truth is, in most ways, they aren't different at all. They love to play, they love to laugh, to run and jump, and sometimes get too loud. They want to feel loved by their parents and to know they are safe. They are, in every sense of the word, simply kids. That is the good news. Some of the other news is not so good. Imagine you're a 5-year-old male-bodied child who cries themselves to sleep every night, praying that when they wake up, God will have answered their prayer and they will have a body that matches their true identity. Imagine being an 11-year-old female assigned child who has known they were a boy since they were 5 years old and who is getting a menstrual period and beginning to develop breasts. He is terrified about these unwanted changes and the long-term effect they are going to have on his life. And there is no one he can talk to about this because they either refuse to listen or completely reject the idea that he is, in fact, a boy. And even if they are willing to listen, will they be able to find a supportive physician? Imagine living in a child's world where everything is split into boy things and girl things. And simply because you've got one particular set of genitals, all of the adults assume they know which things are best for you and which things you should have absolutely no interest in whatsoever. 83% of trans-identified youth consider suicide as an option if they aren't receiving the support they need. 41% of these youth report having attempted suicide. This is by far the largest at-risk youth population that we have for suicidal ideation or suicide attempts. Imagine being a parent and having your 6-year-old male-bodied child tell you, "If I can't be a girl, then I don't want to be alive anymore." According to most recent prevalence estimates, 1 in 100 children experience discrimination, abuse, and rejection because they don't conform to gender stereotypes for their assigned birth sex. 1 in 250 children do not experience their gender identity in a way that corresponds to the gender they were assigned at birth. This is in fact a higher prevalence rate than that of children born with type 1 diabetes. In the Portland metro area, TransActive's current client base is approximately 70 families, and it's growing fast. And based on the prevalence estimates I've just shared with you, that is barely a snowflake on the tip of the iceberg. The children and youth we see at TransActive come from all kinds of family situations, though the majority are being raised in the same type of household that most cisgender kids grow up in: heteronormative, middle class, politically moderate, and faith-believing. We see kids whose parents are native Oregonians and children of documented and undocumented immigrants. We see parents who are fully on board with what their child is experiencing, and those who are resistant to the idea that their son or daughter may be transgender. We have conservative, fundamentalist Christian parents who are supportive of their transgender child, and liberal same-sex couples who refuse to accept their child's gender expression. We also see the most amazing things happen in the lives of kids who receive the support and services they need at various stages in their journeys. A depressed, painfully shy little boy blossoms in the course of a few weeks into an outgoing, happy little girl simply because someone finally listened to her, supported her, and allowed her to express her gender in a way that corresponds with the way that she experiences it. The desperate, suicidal, and self-harming adolescent girl, terrified of going through the wrong puberty, becoming a calmly confident and focused young man with the help of the pediatric endocrinologists that TransActive works with to suppress the devastating changes that come with a wrong gender puberty. The family that came to TransActive afraid that their child was going to take their own life over something the parents simply didn't understand, later to experience a profoundly positive turnaround in the entire family dynamic once they supported their child's transition from being a depressed son to a well-adjusted and happy daughter. The mother who has been told that her transgender 8-year-old daughter cannot use the girls' restroom or participate in sports at her school because other parents might object. This is despite the fact that both the Oregon Equality Act and the Oregon Safe Schools Act prohibit that type of discrimination in public and charter schools. TransActive is, at the present time, the only nonprofit in the United States providing a comprehensive range of services exclusively to transgender and gender nonconforming children, youth, and their families. These services include individual, couples, and group counseling and case management, community and professional educational outreach and training, public advocacy, and research. For youth who are approaching puberty or already in their teen years, we offer medical referrals to local physicians and specialists who provide puberty blocking and other non-surgical medical care. We have also established collaborative relationships with several local and national child and family services organizations. To meet increased demand for services, TransActive now has intern placements in our client services and community education programs from Lewis and Clark, Pacific University, and Reed College. We are, with the exception of one paid staff position, not mine, an entirely volunteer-driven organization at this time. Last year, our staff, many of whom have other paid employment, volunteered over 6,500 hours at TransActive. We expect that number to go up this year. In closing, I want to thank you all for inviting me here today and for putting Multnomah County once again at the forefront of progress and the struggle for equality for all Oregonians, no matter their age. I also would like to personally invite any of the commissioners or your staff to visit TransActive's offices here in Portland and in Commissioner Shiprack's district to see firsthand what we've been able to accomplish with minimum resources and maximum effort. Thank you for this gift of visibility on behalf of the children, youth, and families we serve.